The best in poker news, entertainment, and more. This is the Mark Hoke Show.
All right, everybody, we are back for our evening show here at the World Series of Poker. It is day 1C as we are starting to wind down day one of everybody's chase for the World Championship, and it has been an interesting afternoon, to say the least. We're waiting to get a final number here on how many have registered for the event. Let's see if I lost my bet to Joe, but we'll find out. So we'll keep our eyes open and see what's going on. But I'm Mark Hoke. Thank you for being with us tonight as we roll on with our coverage of the World Series of Poker. Of course, main event going on right now. Players are on break in about, head to dinner break about 22 minutes and 25 seconds. So getting ready for the swarm to hit us out here. And I want to thank, we had a few people coming up and saying they listened to the show, and I really do appreciate that. And, always good to hear that. It's like every year more and more people have hopped on board with the Mark Hoke Show, and really certainly thank every one of you for joining in the fun. We do appreciate it. And other news from the World Series, by the way, we had wow, haven't seen that for a while. Somebody sprinting to the bathroom holding his stomach. That was not good. Not good at all. So looks like we may have a World Series of Poker food casualty here. Hopefully it's not all American Dave. I doubt it. But wow, that guy was in full sprint mode, headed to the restroom. Thank God thank God it didn't happen in 20 minutes. It would have been an absolute disaster. But wow. All right, but main event happening at this point, and we do want to remind everybody a couple of things real quick. Once again, I want to remind you about this great summer showdown event from the Canadian Poker Tour coming up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Not very far. Flight right now is like $285 from Las Vegas. So you can, you're in the area, you're anywhere in the country, you can hop on board, head up there July 24th through August 3rd. Got 10 big events over 11 days, including a high roller event and the main event up there. Should be pretty exciting, over $500,000 guaranteed in this thing. So you're going to want to take the time to come up to Grey Eagle Resort and Casino in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and be a part of this Canadian Poker Tour Summer Showdown. Just go to CanadianPokerTour.tv, and you can get involved with the great event. And, of course, hey, even if you're not Canadian, still come up and play these great events for the Canadian Poker Tour. Just check them out and give it a shot. There's a lot of great things happening up there, and I'm sure you'll have an amazing time. All right. This is just amusing. I am having so much... people watching here at the World Series, always quality entertainment for everybody, to say the least. All right, and there we go. Got that angled out of the way. We are looking at... let's see what we have here for our main event. Right now, of course, all events over. We had the one drop finish up yesterday. So here's your chip counts at this point. Of course, our leader, Martin Jacobson, in the clubhouse in day 1A, a little over 200,000 chips. Right now, Thomas Turbato, screenshot that, baby, because Thomas Turbato, you are leading day 1C of the main event here at the World Series of Poker. So make sure you get yourself in there. But a interesting name at the top of this board right now. It is Andres Heuvold, old friend of mine there, doing all right. Andres at 112, 925, looking at a nice chip stack to start the day. So he should, barring any disasters, he should be able to head in to day 2 pretty easily. Artem Litvinov at 95,000, Son Win 92, Yao Kyung-oh at 88. Of course, these are last reports. Mick Schock, the North Dakota Kid, at 87,700. Frank Williams at 85. Ronnie Pease at 85. Daryl Ronconi hanging around there at 84,000. Chad Auerbach at 80. Blair Hinkle has got himself a decent stack. He's at 78,700. Kevin Eister, bracelet winner here at the WSOP this year, 73.7. Matt Haugen at 72. Daniel Lai, 67,950. Jonathan Waugh at 66. Yeah, come on in. Ryan LaPlante also at 66. Phil Ivey, nice start for him. He's at 63,000. Also Jeff Schulman, former November Niner, he is at 61.8. Athanasios Polychronopoulos at 61,500. Ali Aslami, 60,000. Zoe Kareem, Brown Magic, 59,300. Bart Hansen at 59. So a lot of big names heading up the leaderboard here at the World Series of Poker Day 1C. All right. And, hey, we have a very special guest. At least so the kids like to say. Yeah, you're going to need those. Yeah, you're going to need those at about if you're here for 17 minutes, you're going to need them.
Okay.
It's going to get a little rocking out here.
Yeah.
Just a little.
Because they're about to go on a break.
Yes.
Here? Cool. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. John Pappas, the king, the master, the overlord.
Grand Poobah.
Grand Poobah. That's a good one.
Yes.
I forgot about that one. I'll not have to use that. Of the Poker Players Alliance. John, what's up?
Thank you for having me on, Mark. We've just been out here at the World Series for the 3 days of the day ones of the main event and having a good time, meeting a lot of folks and talking about what's going on in the poker world with respect to legislation, legalization, and kind of how things are going in the 3 regulated markets already.
How are things going in the 3 regular markets already?
Well,
where are you feeling on these right now?
It's interesting because the story that you'll see in the mainstream press is that, it's a failure because it's not making a lot of money.
Sure, you're talking there. Just a little closer.
Sure.
All right, perfect.
There we are.
There you go.
That it's not making enough money. It's not as profitable as some of the politicians had anticipated or expected.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's the measure. That shouldn't be the measure of success, certainly of an industry that's so young. For it to become overnight profit center is probably not realistic, and I think some of the financial expectations they put on it were completely unrealistic. But what is a success, unquestionably, is how it's being regulated effectively. Everything from the geolocation to the identity verification, age verification, the ability of the regulators to be able to oversee the regulated operators. That is an amazing success, and how they did it so quickly. When you talk about New Jersey, they literally passed a law in March of last year and were up and running 7 months later in November. Mm-hmm. They did it very quickly. They did it with technologies that were somewhat unproven, unused here in the United States. And what they've done is actually made the internet and internet gaming, and the regulation of internet gaming in the U.S. is making the internet more transparent. There is no longer this idea of anonymity on the internet, because internet gaming is forcing to take away the anonymity, because you can't be regulated and have people logging onto your site that you don't know who they are, right, for all sorts of reasons. And because of that, I think that's a major success, and no one's talking about that yet. Because the more interesting story is Governor Christie promises he's going to bring in $1 billion, and it's only brought in $5 million. Yeah, and that's a much more interesting story. So I think once we can get past that, then people are going to recognize that the success of this industry shouldn't be based, at least on this near term, on the on how financially successful it is, but rather how it's doing as a regulated industry. Are they keeping minors off the sites? Are they making sure that people aren't, cheating or colluding through these sites? And none of that is happening. There hasn't been any reported instance of underage access. There hasn't been reported instances there's probably been detection of collusion or cheating, mm-hmm, but the regulated sites have been able to detect that and stop it, and hasn't become a problem. And mm-hmm, I think that's admirable, and I think that's really the story here of what's happened over the last year. Now, what's going to happen the next year? I think that's still a question mark, but we're optimistic that there are some states that are on the precipice. 2014 maybe a bit of a long shot, but a lot of people think California is right there. And a lot of people believe if California goes, it's the biggest domino to fall in all of this.
Right.
And it would have a tremendous cascading effect across the country. And I think you'll see a lot more states feeling more comfortable. And I think it's going to take not just California, but a few more states to really get off the ground before we see what they call the domino effect, if you will, this kind of where states won't have to go through multiple legislative cycles to debate and discuss this, because the benefits of it will be just so apparent that why do we need to debate and discuss this for so long?
Right.
But I think we're a few years from that. Hopefully, within the next 12 months, a state like California or a state like Pennsylvania can be on the map. And if that happens, I think that's going to be very positive for the game and very positive for the industry.
Well, the low numbers that have been coming in so far, and admittedly, New Jersey is a fairly populous state, but not seeing the numbers that everybody was projecting. Do you think that has maybe slowed down a few states to really jumping on this? Because I know when I lived in Pennsylvania for most of my life, and when they saw states pulling in a lot of gambling revenue, all of a sudden Pennsylvania was like, well, it's time to get some casinos up here, and they're making a ton of money now. Is that maybe one of the issues that's holding a few places back at this point?
It could be. I mean, we always like to, and when I say we, the Poker Players Alliance, when I talk to lawmakers, I really de-emphasize revenue as a reason for them to do this. For us, it's about consumer protection, all right? Let's make sure that the adult consumer who is either currently playing online or wants to play online can do so in a safe and secure way. And by doing that, you've created an opportunity to raise revenue, and any revenue, any dollar amount is more than you're making today, right? Because you're making nothing today, and all that money is being sucked out to the unregulated overseas market. But yes, unfortunately, the sole argument of let's do what's right isn't necessarily the winning argument.
Exactly.
For lawmakers. A lot of lawmakers say, well, how do we, overcome these budget shortfalls? How do I pay for this pet project? And how can internet poker, internet gambling be the source of that revenue? So I think, some people, not the PPA, really made, promises to these lawmakers that this is what it would do. But anybody, I think anybody who looks at it and says, I think a mature internet poker market could produce that type of revenue. If we talked about what the type of numbers that PokerStars and Full Tilt were doing in the U.S. pre-Black Friday, under a regulated market, that would have been producing a lot of revenue for those states. But that's not what we have today. It's not the kind of market so if everyone's basing it on those pre-Black Friday numbers, that's unrealistic, because the new markets are segregated. They're state by state only. And, players have not yet, fully come back online. So I think it's going to take time for that to happen. And I'm hopeful that that we can talk some sense into some of these lawmakers that say, hey, let's not make this all about the revenue. Let's first think about protecting consumers through appropriate regulation, and the byproduct of that will be revenue. I can't promise you what the number is today, but I guarantee you it's a lot more than you're making now, which is zero.
Right.
And anything more than zero should be a positive for them, particularly since they're making money immediately off of licensing fees. And the cost to the state is nothing.
Right.
All of the cost for regulation, all of the cost is borne into the licensing fees. So the state isn't spending any resources to establish a new industry, and not to mention, there is ancillary benefits that come from this new regulated industry, not just the revenue that is derived from the gambling itself, but as you're here at the World Series of Poker, look around you. There are a lot of unrelated industries, directly related to gambling, that feed off of the poker industry. And because of that, whether it's advertising, whether it's sponsorships, whether it's